Keon Coleman is one of the biggest dynasty winners from the 2024 NFL Draft. Should he be a first-round pick in your dynasty drafts? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Kate Madjuk. You can follow her on Twitter at Kate Madjuk. On today's show, we are breaking down the biggest rookie winners from the 2024 NFL Draft, including Ladd McConkey to the Chargers, Trey Benson to the Arizona Cardinals, J.J. McCarthy to the Vikings, and of course, Keon Coleman, the new number one receiver for the Buffalo Bills. Okay, you and I were not super high on Keon Coleman, but why does this landing spot change that?
I'm going to be honest, Marcus, and we're going to have this discussion here. I'm still not in on Keon Coleman, and I want to talk a bit about that because, again, the prospect evaluation, the player fit, the reason why it's a win, right? He comes into a situation where he can immediately see a significant target share. You look at the targets vacated, there are a ton to go around here in this offense because obviously you remember Stephon Diggs was traded away, but there's also the free agency departure of Gabe Davis, which they have combined for 818 of 1,969 targets. That is just under 42% of the team's targets over the past 3 seasons. And like I'm going to say, I don't know kind of which role that Keon Coleman is going to fill for this offense. And that's the biggest kind of element of projection here. Is he going to play more of that Stephon Diggs kind of possession role where you also trust him on 50-50 balls? Or is he going to be kind of a really expensive version of Gabe Davis that you had to utilize high draft capital on? Now, he's only 20 years old, coming out of FSU, like athlete, he's phenomenal, right? Like that is part of his strengths. He's a 2-sport athlete. He's physical, he's explosive. You know, he could contribute on special teams. There's a lot to like, but there's also some weaknesses that I'm having trouble figuring out why this was the best pick for Buffalo specifically. Obviously, it's a winner because he's tied to a great quarterback. He's a winner because he has an immediate opportunity to earn targets on this team. But I do have question marks about that lack of ability to create separation, and how much that is going to affect his overall ability to earn targets, his ability to run routes. Like, he can't create separation with that ability. Is that going to hinder his ability to earn targets? Those are my questions for Keon Coleman. Now I'm just blabbering, but like, he's a winner, but I'm still skeptical. So I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a mistake to assume that the Bills offense is going to look the same this year and that these guys are going to just, like, Keon Coleman's going to be in the Gabe Davis role. Now, what's funny is I actually compared Keon Coleman to like a rich man version of Gabe Davis going into the draft. But I think Joe Brady, the Bills' new offensive coordinator, is going to have some of his own little twists and wrinkles in this offense. So we can't assume everything is going to look exactly the same. One of the things I do like about this Coleman fit in Buffalo is that he's just so different from everybody else on the roster, right? Like Dalton Kincaid, he is a slot tight end that wins quickly, right? Khalil Shakir, slot receiver who kind of wins after the catch. Curtis Samuel, a slot receiver who kind of wins after the catch and does a lot of the things behind the line of scrimmage. He's just so different than all of those guys, which makes me think there's a good chance that he's just used as the, let's say, one of the outside receivers, and his role is pretty much unchanged every single week. I have some questions about his separation. I mean, you watch his tape at Florida State, Kate, and he is covered on every play.
There's a reason he's like known for his contested catches,
Yes.
right? Because they're all contested because
Yes.
he doesn't create separation.
And if you go back and you listen to our pre-draft profile on Keon Coleman, one of the things we said is we would really like to see him with a good quarterback that can throw him the ball in tight spaces and he could use his body to box out defenders. I don't think if he would have went to a younger quarterback or maybe a mid-tier quarterback, whether he would have had any success, but the good quarterbacks can throw big targets open. That's why I'm at least intrigued here. And the age, he's only 20 years old. The Bills did make a significant, they've gave him second round draft capital, 33rd overall pick. That's not nothing, right? This is the highest drafted receiver they've had in a long, long time.
Not to mention, Josh Allen specifically said, "I want that guy." So like, there is some element of that where that Josh Allen, this is the guy that he kind of handpicked to be his 50-50 guy,
Yes.
right? And even I think there's something to be said for that, especially with, maybe the willingness of Josh Allen, especially as a veteran now in this league with a good arm, with, good ball placement. Like, I think there's something to be said for the fact that, like, he might just be more willing than maybe a Bryce Young to just chuck it up in the air and let his guy make a play. So, like, from a YOLO perspective, huge win for Keon Coleman. I think what I'm just kind of pointing out is that I still think there's a pretty wide range of outcomes for Keon Coleman in the NFL. But if those elements are going to come together ideally for Keon Coleman, this is probably one of the better fits. I think it's just a worse fit on the Bills end.
All right, let's just really quickly, without thinking too much about this, let's rank him among some other receivers. Keon Coleman or Xavier Legette?
I'll take Coleman just for the quarterback pairing.
Keon Coleman or Adonai Mitchell, somebody that I liked a little bit. What about you?
Oh, I will take Keon Coleman. I would
agree. Keon Coleman or Troy Franklin, who was being drafted as wide receiver 6 going into the weekend.
I guess I take Keon Coleman, but again, that's more so on upside. Although I would not be surprised if Troy Franklin and the pairing with Bo Nix, we actually see Troy Franklin as the more productive and consistent rookie.
I'll take Keon Coleman there. The 4th round draft capital makes me a little nervous. Plus, we have Marvin Mims, who I think is just a better version of Troy Franklin. Last one I want to mention here, Xavier Worthy.
Easily.
So it looks like for you, Keon Coleman is somewhere around wide receiver 6, wide receiver 7. And considering that he was for us like wide receiver 9, wide receiver 10, pretty good little jump in value from the draft. He's got to be considered one of the biggest winners coming out of the draft. Let's talk about another receiver that I purposely didn't mention in that list, and that's Ladd McConkey, who was drafted in the 2nd round by the Chargers. Does he see his dynasty value go up now that he's playing with Justin Herbert? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and in the NHL. We've got baseball in full swing. And FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all in an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Listen, we got to wait a while for football, right? Well, you can go still bet on the UFL, but you've got to wait a while for the NFL. We don't have preseason games until late August. Go check out some of their lines on the basketball games, hockey, baseball. You can go dig into the NFL futures bets, which is some of my favorite bets. They've got their lines up already, including win totals, awards. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and make your first bet an automatic win with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer that it gets to tip off. With killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Save up to 60% buying last minutes for sports, music, concerts, comedy events, whatever you want to go see. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Are you having to turn down the volume because of all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that unnecessary screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Kate, let's talk about our guy, Ladd McConkey, who, laid it in a fantastic situation. We were a little bit nervous that he was going to lay it on a team where he would be viewed as like the number 2 or number 3 receiver and maybe a slot receiver only. But this is fantastic.
He could not have had a better landing spot. And I think we were all kind of surprised, right? You looked at the Chargers. They basically ran this pick for Joe Alt up to the podium. There was a little bit of concern there that they emerged from round 1 without one of these top receiving options, especially when they had a Malik Neighbors, a Rome Odunze straight into their lap at the point that they were drafting. I got to admit, I was sweating it out a little bit because I thought and I've been a little bit skeptical again of the pairing of Justin Herbert with this coaching staff who very clearly want to run the ball. Like that's point A in this offense. Point B is, I guess, whatever Justin Herbert's doing. Quentin Johnson, you had the vacated targets here. He had nobody to throw to, right? And you had the departure of Mike Williams. You had the departure of Keenan Allen. There is a significant target share availability here in the Chargers offense. You basically have as the familiar faces. And I didn't even mention the departure of Austin Eckler, who's been basically wide receiver 2 for this team over the past several years. There have been some really significant shifts, but I think the fit with Ladd McConkey is one of the most interesting ones in this draft because year 1, I think he is in a position to probably, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what wide receivers I'm going to project in this class to have more targets here in 2024. And I think it's probably just Malik Neighbors.
Well, let me ask you this.
Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors. And then I think it's probably Ladd McConkey in terms of a pro-ready skill set. I just think he kind of offers you everything coming out of Georgia. Ability to create separation, proficiency as a route runner. You want to talk about the fact that, he had a lot of high percentage catchable targets, 96th percentile in catchable target rate in 2023. But guess what? Now he's going to Justin Herbert, who is going to, I think, be able to set him up for some of these high percentage completions that they're going to be lacking from the absence of a Keenan Allen or a Austin Eckler. This is the perfect fit.
Do you think Ladd could average 6 targets a game for the Chargers this year?
Fairly easily, yes.
I mean, that's 100 targets right there from a elite quarterback. And I think there's a chance he get up to 7. And now we're talking about 120 targets a season. I love this fit. He's the best route runner. He can get open. He'll block. He'll play multiple spots. My guess is that we're going to see a lot of Josh Palmer and Ladd McConkey, 2 wide receiver sets. And then we're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets with Greg Roman. That's the way he likes to run his offense. And that just means Ladd's going to be on the field all the time. And I think you can do a lot of fun stuff with Ladd. You can run the short routes. You can give him screens. He can make plays down the field. I love this fit, and there's an immediate opportunity for him to be the leading target, the leading pass catcher on this offense. I'm really, really excited about what Ladd McConkey can do with the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, I think just year one, when you're looking at impact players, for me, it really is Marvin Harrison Jr., it's Malik Neighbors, and it's Ladd. And that those are like the three wide receivers that I think could probably rank top 15 among wide receivers in total targets in 2024 if they're on the field and healthy. And the good thing about Ladd McConkey, I think, is he's one of the more polished, higher floor receivers in this class. So, like day one, I think his ability as a route runner and ability to create separation with his route running is going to endear him very quickly to Justin Herbert in terms of earning a target share. Unlike a Keon Coleman, like I said, like, you might not, it might take him a minute to kind of figure out these intricacies of the route running and how to create separation in the next level without just boxing out, which maybe you're not as excited about that. But like Ladd McConkey, you see the overall refinement that I think makes him a potentially year one difference maker.
Do you like Ladd McConkey in Dynasty more than Keon Coleman?
I do. Ladd McConkey is wide receiver 4 in this class, and I say wide receiver 4 with
Over Brian
hesitancy.
Thomas?
Huh?
Over Brian Thomas?
That's where I'm kind of on the edge here. Brian Thomas is like the one player that I'm like, all right, well, pretty great situation. Although, like, I mean, undeniably, from a situation standpoint, Ladd McConkey, you could argue, is an even better situation and has less competition for targets year one. I think Ladd McConkey, though he doesn't have that same size speed combination, he's still extremely quick. He's not a midget; he's 6 foot tall. Like, he's still got the whole package, I think, in terms of that. And I think, the proven ability as a route runner is something that Brian Thomas does not offer. Like, Brian Thomas coming out, you very much have to project that he's going to pick up some of that route running at the next level, because generally speaking, like, saw a lot of his production on like the same 3 routes over and over and over again. So, like, yeah,
Yeah.
like Ladd McConkey versus Brian Thomas, that is where things get a little sticky for me. But I think it's Ladd McConkey.
I'm going to be really interested to hear about the buzz on Ladd McConkey. So most of my rookie drafts happen, a little bit later in the summer, usually in August. I just want to hear the buzz. Like, are they using him all over? Is he running with the first team? Because we got like last year, it was like May, we started hearing about Puka Nacua. Now, obviously, Ladd is a better prospect than Puka, but I don't expect Ladd to have the same kind of production that Puka Nacua had, right? But you heard kind of the buzzwords from Puka in May, June, and July of like, hey, this is a guy that can play with Cooper Kupp. This is a guy that Matt Stafford really likes. And look for him to have a big role in the offense as a rookie. I want to hear those same things about Ladd. And I know that's a little bit short-sighted when we're talking dynasty. But the quicker that he can become the leading receiver on this team, the better it's going to be for his dynasty value. I'm very excited about what Ladd McConkey can do with Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I think right now, as it stands, Ladd McConkey for me is probably looking like one of the best values in rookie drafts, because there's a lot of excitement about Xavier Worthy and that pairing with, Patrick Mahomes. There's a lot of excitement about Keon Coleman and that pairing with Josh Allen.
Yep.
I think we're forgetting just how good of a quarterback Justin Herbert is. Obviously, last year, like, didn't set him up for success, had the health issue, had the finger, like, it was just kind of a never-ending story. But, like, let's not forget that Justin Herbert is one of the best passing quarterbacks here in the National Football League, and now he's paired with one of the best route runners in this class. You can't get a more ideal pairing than that.
All right, let's talk about a running back, because there weren't very many running backs that saw their values go up this weekend. But I do want to talk, or we want to talk about Trey Benson landing with the Arizona Cardinals next. This episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We've got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You've already talked about that before, but there's just so much good stuff going on with this game right now. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more that you win together, the more awesome prizes that you unlock. And there's so much to get, like unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or this robot machine, which is really, really cool. I have to check that out. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We are breaking down the biggest rookie winners on today's show. On tomorrow's show, you guessed it, biggest rookie losers, which is quite a few of them. I don't know how we're going to be able to fit it all into a 30-minute show, but we will
It's
do
gonna
our
be it's gonna be tough work. It's gonna be tough work, but I don't know. We still have a name to celebrate. So we'll stick to the positive for today. But yeah, everybody buckle in for tomorrow's show because there's a lot to go over.
So let's talk about Trey Benson, who lands with the Cardinals. Actually, a pretty good landing spot. Now, blocked a little bit in year one by James Conner, but James Conner is getting quite a bit older. And then behind Trey Benson, not a lot. And this is an offense that I think is ascending now that they got Marvin Harrison Jr., now that Kyler Murray is completely healthy. Trey McBride going into year three after a big breakout season, kind of in on this Cardinals offense.
I'm all in on this Cardinals offense. There's probably no offense that did like a better job of just completely overhauling the ultimate appearance. And I do think that two key assets to that overhaul, Trey Benson and Marvin Harrison Jr. We're not going to talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. though. Again, he's like clearly far and away one of the best, winners in this class, but like we've talked about him to death. I want to talk about why Trey Benson is the biggest winner here. There were not a lot of overly favorable rookie landing spots. I got to say, I was kind of surprised because a lot of the rookie landing spots in team pairings, it felt like there were a lot of kind of redundant skill sets, right? Like Miami Dolphins, you look at the drafting of Jalen Wright, and okay, what do they have in common? They have speed, right? Him and Devin Achane, speed. Like there were a lot of redundant skill sets, but Trey Benson, I actually think year one, obviously you're going to project James Conner for the lion's share of the workload. It is the final year of his contract, so like after 2024, we're kind of looking at a wide open lane for Trey Benson to become one of the biggest workhorse running backs in the National Football League. Now, Trey Benson, generally speaking, his strength, you've got to look at his overall power and athleticism as that key asset that is going to absolutely change the game. And he offers that kind of breakaway speed that I just don't think James Conner offers. And that I say that as a huge James Conner fan. They also invested in the offensive line, took a guard, Isaiah Adams out of Illinois, which I think could be a year one contributor. Like that offensive line, you looked at James Conner, he was one of the most productive running backs in the league. Now you have a phenomenal athlete whose ability to force missed tackles literally ranked behind Bijan Robinson as the highest missed forced tackle rate in PFF grading history dating back to 2014. I think their skill sets are really different. I think the breakaway run potential is going to make him a really interesting pick, potentially like in a best ball kind of format. But generally speaking, like I don't think there was a better, talent opportunity pairing at the running back position than we got in Trey Benson.
I think there's a lot of ways that this can go for Trey Benson that are all positive. Like let's play out a couple scenarios. Number one, he starts the year as the backup to a 29-year-old James Conner that has had a hard time staying on the field, and he's the backup, and he comes onto the field every now and then. And then once James Conner gets hurt, because we know what's going to happen, Trey Benson's the lead running back the rest of the way. I think that's probably the most likely situation.
James
I think
Conner's played 13 games in each of the last 2 seasons. So that is 4 missed games
Yep.
back-to-back years.
I also think there's a possibility the Cardinals just make Trey Benson the starter to open the year, and then James Conner kind of slides into a reserve role. Maybe he's doing some of the short yardage work. Maybe he's doing some pass blocking work. And they just try. It's a little bit of a changing of the guard there at the running back position. I also just wonder if the Cardinals move on from James Conner before the season even starts. Again, 29 years old. They can save some cap space. I think this is probably the most unlikely of the three, but there are some teams out there that could use a James Conner in the backfield. Dallas Cowboys. So I won't be surprised if that happens either. So I think
I
Trey
didn't even
Benson.
think about the Cowboys. That
Yes.
would be such an ideal situation
Short-term,
for a
yeah.
team in a short-term need for a running back.
But I don't want to turn this into a Cowboy show. This is Locked On Dynasty, not
Yeah.
Locked On Cowboys, which you can check out 5 days a week on the Locked On Podcast Network. I just think that I would be shocked if Trey Benson doesn't lead this Cardinals team in touches this year. He's just a better player. He's explosive. I think he fits really well with Kyler Murray. I think this is a fantastic landing spot. And at the very worst, Kate, very worst, by 2025, he's the lead guy here, and we're off.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Kyler Murray, obviously having a quarterback that is a dual threat. Like that is why part of the reason we wanted to see King Henry run alongside Lamar Jackson. Like that's the thing, we all deserved it. Obviously, Kyler Murray is not the same caliber rusher that Lamar Jackson is, but he's still like a top 3 running quarterback in this league, if not a top 2. Like they're having that sort of dual threat quarterback in the game alongside the running back. Like it does give defenses this moment of pause where they have to figure out, is it the running back that has the ball in his hands or is it the quarterback? And sometimes that split second of uncertainty opens lanes. And for a guy like Trey Benson, who like, if the hole is there, and he's able to get past that, initial line of scrimmage and get to that second level, like Trey Benson has the athleticism to take a ball to the house. Like
Yes.
it's such a good fit, I think, from a schematic standpoint, from a personnel standpoint. I think it's kind of this ideal match.
So I saw a few rookie drafts this morning as I was kind of just moseying around the house, and Trey Benson going ahead of Jonathan Brooks, the first running back drafted in some startup dynasty drafts, which I think is very interesting. We're going to talk about our rankings all this week, all next week. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Go follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Check out the channel on YouTube as well. Follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Majuk. I'm at Marcus _Mosier, and we will see you right back here on Tuesday.